I hear you.
Okay, cool. So, do you guys have any question from the previous session? Any of the topic? If you wanted to ask any of the question from any of the topics, so that's fine. You can ask me.
I'm good.
Okay. So as you guys are already, I think like both of you are working on this AWS. I mean like a database, or you are working on something else.
Right now, I'm working on RDS service only.
Sorry,
So Satish is. Hello?
Yeah, you said like Nagios?
No, RDS.
RDS.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And Satish, what about you?
Hi. No, I'm not working.
Sorry, I missed it.
Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You were saying something. So.
No, can you repeat the question again? I didn't hear properly.
The question is like, are you working on like in the first session of introduction? I think more than 2 people have said that they are working on, RDS or this MySQL thing. So just wanted to know from both of you that.
No, I'm not working. I'm completely in a different stream. That's what I told, right? I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So today we are going to learn about this RDS, and RDS, that means relational database system, and it has been used by most of the organizations. So now, like why you require database and what is database? So first of all, let me give you a brief introduction about database. So when it comes to save data, then we can go and save data in plain text, or we can go and save the data in like notepad, or maybe in a txt file, any flat file, right? But once you have a lot of data available in any of the flat files, so finding data from there, acquiring any data, or if you wanted to read any particular data from a text file, so it is really difficult. You can assume a scenario where you have a file, txt file, and that file contain more than let's say like 50,000 words altogether. Now if somebody asks you that go and find the information for this word, so getting the information, related information for a particular word takes a real amount of time. It's really become a big deal to handle uh, those kind of files. And like if somebody says that go and write some data in that file, so then again it became a tricky task, right? So to avoid these kind of scenarios, what comes into the picture, then the database says that you can go and save your data in tables. Okay, that means you can go and save your data in row and column. Row, that means the horizontal line, and the column, that means the vertical line, exactly as we go and save our data in Excel, Microsoft Excel, or any other Excel. So if you see the Excel, so what do we have in Excel? Like we have a table, we have a sheet, and then we always have rows and columns. Now you might be thinking that why we don't use Excel if we can go and really save the data in case of Excel. The thing is, like when the size increases, so saving all the data in Excel become again the tricky task, and querying the data, if you wanted to query your data from the Excel, so this become a real problem for the applications, right? So that's why Excel is not a good choice. Even I have seen that, you know, when the account people started to use this Excel for a long table, so in that case, you know, it really takes them, it takes almost like 5 minutes for them to start that Excel sheet, and then, you know, finding some data from it, like querying the data from it. So it become a real task, you know, a hectic task if you really wanted to fetch something out of this Excel sheet. Now, like, we have this relational database system. In relational database system, what we have, like, again, it is, we do have the tables, and table consists of rows and columns, so we can go and save our data in rows and columns. Now, if you can think of a relational database system, so we have something called name, and let's say that, you know, I wanted to say like codes, right? So I can go and say name like A, B, and C, and we can say like course is like, you know, X, Y, Y, Z, and X, Z, right? And if you wanted to fetch any data for this, if you wanted to just find out that, you know, what course A is enrolled for, so you can easily find it out. So finding any data, querying any data is very feasible. And if you wanted to write some data in this, you know, Excel, so in this Excel, so yeah, it is quite easy. And the same kind of phenomena is being is what we follow in case of relational database system. Now, if you have another table in relational database system, so again, like, you know, we can do a lot of stuff. Like, we can easily go and, you know, get the data from another table, and we can also define, yeah, we do have another table, and that table is going to refer this column. Okay. So there are like a lot of concepts which we have available in RDS, which we have available in RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. And as a cloud engineer, as a DevOps engineer, you don't really require to know the whole stuff about the database. But yes, you need to do the administration purpose. You need to know the administration task, that how you can go and perform the administrator task. So you know, when your developer says that they are creating one application, and they wanted to make a connection of that application to the database, so they will ask you that, can you go and create a database for them, for us, right? So in order to do this activity, you can go and launch one EC2 instance and probably install MySQL as a database. So like, there are different databases available nowadays. If I talk about, so the Postgre is very popular these days. It is being used by a lot of organizations. Then we have this MySQL, and then we have Oracle DB. Then we have you know, Microsoft Server, SQL Server. So these are the database servers which is quite popular these days. And you know, I'm talking about the Relational Database Management System, RDS. So you know, you can go and launch your instance and always go and install a software and create a database. Now the problem arises as soon as, you know, like, database have the connection with the application. Now let's assume a scenario where the server itself went down. You know, the server itself went down. So in that case, the database which was running on that EC2 instance will stop, and the application will not be able to access the data available inside the database. It will say that database connection timeout. So how you can go and make your database highly available? So in that case, probably what you can do, that you can launch two EC2 instance, and you can say that database is going to be, you know, database data is going to be replicated on both of the EBS instances. Or maybe you can create a cluster, and then, you know, you can say that if any of the instance went down, so in that case another instance will come up. But till the time, you know, the active instance of the cluster went down, now you wanted to, like, make the another instance as an active instance. So we have what we can do, like, we can go and create the cluster, and cluster always have this active and passive nodes. So your database will be running on the active node only. Now this is what you can do, like, again, but the problem is, like, you have to manage a couple of things. You have to manage, like, EC2 instance, You have to manage the high availability of the EC2 instance. You also need to manage the cluster of the EC2 instance, and then you need to manage the database services. So you can see, like, in order to run a single database, you have to manage a couple of things, and sometimes these things is not really required. You have a small company and you wanted to just focus on your application, not just on the infrastructure part. So in that case, AWS says that we have a managed service available. And what you can do, that you can launch your database, and then you will be getting one URL, and then you can connect your application with the to that database. So very easy stuff. So if you wanted to create your own database, and that is what the requirement which we receive as a DevOps engineer, as a AWS cloud engineer, right? That please go and create the database. So you should be having the understanding that how you can go and create the database. Okay. So you can always go and click on the services, and then you can see here that we have database service available: RDS, DynamoDB, Elastic Cache, Neptune, and Amazon Redis. So click on this RDS. Once you go and click on the RDS, a page will open, and that page will exactly look same as it is open now. So this is the dashboard of the Amazon RDS. And why we are using it? Because we don't want to manage the cluster, we don't want to manage the high availability of our database. So that is going to maintain by the AWS itself. Now you can go and click on this databases in order to have a list of the database available in your account. And you can see, like, as of now we are logged into this Mumbai region. So the database is going to be available in Mumbai region. Now let's go and create the database. It takes couple of minutes to be available, right? So first of all, we will go and create it, then we will talk about this database. Now you can see here that it is saying that choose a database creation method. So I will say like a standard. You can always choose easy one also, that's totally fine. So standard. Now, as I said, like, there are different kind of databases available, the popular databases. So we have this MySQL, MariaDB, Postgre, Oracle, and this Microsoft SQL Server. And now this in Amazon Cloud, you will find this Amazon Aurora, right? So this is also one engine available to us for both, for MySQL and for Postgre. We will talk about it. So they are like, you can see, like, there are different versions available, different engines type available for us. And if we want to go create the MySQL database, so we can always go and choose the MySQL, which is quite popular in organization, and yes. So now, it says that they have this MySQL community version, and the different versions you can go and see here. So most of the organizations nowadays are using this 5.7.16. Let's say this one. Okay. So most of the organizations are using the MySQL version 5.7, and some of the organizations who just created their application and they want the data to be saved, then you can choose them. You can choose the MySQL version 8.0 for them if needed. You can always go and check the limitations. And now you can see, like, here you have to go and choose the template. So let me choose the free tier template. And here you have to go and define the name of the database instance identifier. So as I said, earlier, that whenever like you feel that you wanted to install the database on one EC2 instance, so you need to launch one EC2 instance, then you configure the EC2 instance, or you configure the EC2 instance to run the database applications, right? And if you prefer this RDS service, then in that case, the EC2 instance will be get created by the Amazon itself, and it will be get managed by the AWS only, right? And it is being managed by them in the backend, so we will not be having any control to the EC2 instances, right? But how you gonna like identify that, you know, which EC2, which instance belongs to which RDS? So in that case, you have to go and define the name, and the name is case insensitive. So I can say like DB demo, and here I can go and define the credentials. So let's say the name of the username is admin, and I will just go and keep it default. Give your password here, and again like repeat your password. Now, this is the interesting part, which, and depending upon which, the cost of the, you know, the cost actually changes for the RDS. So because we have chosen the template T2, we have chosen the template of free tier, that's why like it is showing us db.t2.micro, and it has one virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM, not EBS optimized. Okay, but you can also go and get the list of the different one. As of now, these are not highlighted because I have chosen the free tier as a template. But when I go and choose the dev test or maybe the production, so I will be having the other list to choose. Now you can see like the storage type, so you can always go and define the storage type. We have general purpose and IOPS, and general purpose is something which is quite enough for us. And you can see like the minimum amount of the storage is 20 GB, and the maximum which you can give is 16 TB, right? So 16 TB is the maximum number of storage for your database. And so this option came recently, which says that enable storage auto scaling. If you have given like 20 GB and 20 GB is about to fill, so it will scale the storage automatically till this 1000. So this is maximum threshold storage threshold value. Now you have to go and always define that in which VPC you wanted to create this database. In organizations, we try to create the database in the private instances or private subnets. So in okay, so we always try to create the database in the private subnet. The benefit is that, you know, nobody will be able to access the database from the internet, and that is actually a good part. So that is actually a good part. Now additional connections configuration. So subnet group that defines which subnet and IP range the database instance can use in the VPC you selected. Now, do you want to have this? Do you want to give the public access? So in my case, it is public access, yes. But once you, whenever you get the requirement to create the database in the organization, so you have to make sure that, you know, whether they have the requirement. If they have the requirement to create the database or make it available to the public, then only you say yes. Otherwise, it is going to be no in most of the cases. Database is one of the crucial thing in the organization, in every organization eventually, and you know, we have to go and make the data very, very secure. Then you can also change the database port number. So as of now it is 3306, and if you feel that, you know, you wanted to add the extra level of security, then you can always go and change this number. So I'm going to keep it 3306. Then database authentication, so password authentication, and you can also log in by using this password and IAM database authentication, where the IAM user will be able to log into this database. As of now, I just wanted to say that user should be able to log in by using the password. And now here you are getting the complete detail, like 750 hours of Amazon RDS is a single AG is like free. So this is, it is not going to give you any kind of monthly cost, But yes, once you increase the size and everything, so definitely you will be having some cost. Now go and click on this create database. So it should take almost like 10 minutes to create the database. Till that time, we can actually go and discuss some other stuff. So let's talk about this snapshot. So what do we mean by snapshot? Snapshot means point in time backup. Point in time backup. So what do we mean by point in time backup or a snapshot? So a snapshot, the another meaning of the snapshot is the incremental backup, right? Incremental backup. So let's say that you have a database and the size of the database is 1 terabyte. Let's say that you have a database and the size of that database is 1 terabyte. Trust me, it is a very 1 terabyte is a like very big size for any database. And now like because database is like very crucial thing in any organization. So everybody wanted to take a backup of the real database, right? And taking a backup of 1 TB will take a good amount of time. Whether it is like on-prem server or the cloud, it is going to take a good amount of time to create the backup of 1 TB. So what do we mean by snapshot? A snapshot is always an incremental backup. That means if you have taken the snapshot or the backup like yesterday and today, you try to take the snapshot once again. So the changes made between yesterday and today will be get available in my next snapshot, right? So this is what we call a snapshot. If you wanted to create the snapshot of any of the database, so always say like take a snapshot, or then you can choose your available DB instances, and then finally the snapshot will be available. Okay, one more thing I wanted to highlight. So this database is getting created as of now, and if you have observed carefully, so you might have seen automated backup, right? So when you give the size of this database 20 GB, so you also get the 20 GB of database for free, database backup size for free. Yeah. So automated there, whenever you create a database, so the automated backup is always available. You know. Okay. So we can have a look to this automated backup, and as of now, you can see like we have the active backup available, and it is saying that earliest storable time and the latest storable time. So these informations are not available as of now, but once this automated backup is available, so you can always go and restore it. So you can always select this one, and you can say action and then restore to point in time. So what it will do, like it will go and restore the database to the previous position. Fine. So whenever you go and restore the database, so what usually happens that it always creates the new database. So this is what you need to remember. So when you have this snapshot, and by using that snapshot, you wanted to create a new database, basically wanted to restore the things. So you will not be able to make the changes in the existing database. Always remember this. There is no way to make the changes in the existing database. It will go and create the new database. Okay, it will go and create the new database. The snapshot will create the new database, and the URL of that database will be new. Now the problem is like you have to go back to your application and update the URL of the database. Let me repeat that whenever you have this snapshot, so and you wanted to restore, so in that case, it will create a new database, and new database will be having a new URL. Okay, new database will be having a new URL. Then you have to go to your application and update the URL of the database. So that is one thing you always need to remember. Let's go to the database once again. So you can see like, the CPU utilization of this database is 23.22, and why it is so much, even though we don't have any current connection to this database, because as of now it is taking the backup. So remember that whenever you take the backup of the database, the CPU utilization of the database get increased, right? So whenever you try to take the automated backup or any other backup of the database, so the CPU utilization on the server, on the database will increase. So what do we learn from this? That we should not create any of the backup during the production hours. In India, it is 9 to 6, the production hour. So, and and this is the 9 to 6 hour is a critical time for any of the application in India. So what we can say that if we wanted to take the backup of the database, so we can choose a time of around 4 o'clock in the night, or maybe like 3 o'clock in the night. And that way, even if the utilization goes high, so it will not impact the customer, because the customer will not be accessing your application at that point of time in India. So there will be very less amount of traffic during the night time. And now you can see like, this database is available. This database is available, and if you try to refresh, so this CPU utilization should decrease up to some extent. Before I actually show you that how you can go and create a table and save the data, I wanted to show you some other stuff which is also important. So you can see like we have this action, and it has given us couple of options, that stop, reboot, delete, create, read replica. So what do we mean by this create read replica? So let's say that you have two applications. One application is running in India and the another application is running in, let's say, UK. Okay, the another application is running in UK. Now what do you want to say that that the user from the UK will not be writing anything in your database. They will be just reading the information from the database, right? So the application on behalf of the UK user will be reading the data only. They will not be writing anything to your database. And you really wanted to make sure that they get the best performance. So in that case, what you can do, you can create the read replica. That means you create a exact copy of the database. In case of read replica, you create the exact copy of the database, but that copy will be readable only. You will not be able to write in that copy. Okay. The benefit is like, you are just saying that the benefit is saying, the benefit what you are defining is, if anybody comes to write anything, so in that case the request should be get forwarded to the India database, right? So that is one thing. And this is also required, the create read replica is also required whenever you try to run the batch operations, batch jobs, basically batch jobs. So the big data team and the management team, if they wanted to read some data from from the database, and if they are running the queries on a very big queries, a large queries on production database, so in that case the production database may fail, and it can be a big problem or business loss for the company, right? Instead of that, what you guys can suggest, that create a read replica, and then from that read replica, read the data as much as required. So there will be no impact between the production database and the read replica. And now you might be thinking that how the data, the latest data, will get copied from the production database, the real database, to the read replica. So AWS says that whenever you create the read replica, so all the data which is getting saved, in the production database will get replicated to the another database, read replica database. So now the database is available. Now let me show you that how you can go and make a connection to this database. So I just refreshed the page, and now I will be clicking on this database name. So first of all, I need to make sure that what is the, so you can see like we have this endpoint. So by using this endpoint only, we will make a connection to this database, and we have this port number 3306. Okay. Now here we need to make sure that which security group is attached to our database. You always need to make sure. And we need to see if the inbound rule, if the port number 3306 is allowed in the inbound rule. So click in the inbound rule and then say add inbound and say add rule. And here you can click in the drop down and you will see one option called MySQL. Save rules. Fine. So the rules has been saved. Now we can go back to the RDS once again. Now we can go and click on this database once again, and you can see like we have all this, the same thing. Now so now what we can do, like by using this URL, we can make a connection to this database on port number 3306. And now you can also observe that the CPU utilization also decreased, right? Because the backup has been finished. Okay. Now how you can go and make the connection to this database? So you can use one application and then probably do the connection. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to install a client. I'm going to install a client on my machine and will be making connection to this database. So let me see if I have or not. So go to the software. Okay, I don't have it. So what I can do, instead of downloading all this stuff and everything, what I can do, like I can go and launch one EC2 instance and try to make a connection to my database. Okay. So go to the service, EC2. Click on this launch instance. I will be choosing the image as Amazon Linux. I will keep each and everything as default, and then go and click on this tag. Not server, basically we can say client. So the server is running on RDS. And I need to make sure that the port number 22 is open. So I will just go and review and then launch the instance. I need to create a key pair. So let's copy this public IP address, and I will be trying to log into this instance. So I will just go to the downloads. Yep. So here it is. Open the git bash and try to log into this instance. ssh-i and then rds Lenovo, and the default username for Microsoft, for Amazon Linux is ec2-user. Then paste the public IP address. Say yes. Sudo su. Clear. Okay. Now what you need to do, that you need to install the MySQL client, right? And if you don't install, so as of now, let me see if we can go and run the command MySQL. So this MySQL command is not running, and this MySQL command will allow you to make a connection with the RDS instance. So in order to make this command running MySQL, I need to install client at least. So I will say yum. In Amazon Linux, yum is a command which used to install the packages. When it comes to install a package on Red Hat, CentOS, or Amazon Linux, and we use this yum. So MySQL, and let me see if we have the client and all. Even I can go and search on the internet, MySQL client on Amazon Linux too, right? So let's try to see a good doc basically. Okay, so what they are suggesting that we should install the MySQL package, that's totally fine. So if we have to go install that, so I think this command is more than enough for us. So I will just go and install this MySQL. This is the one which I executed. So yum install MySQL, and it will install the MariaDB package. So I will say yes. Now if I try to run the MySQL command, so it will work. See, it is working now. So this is just the client. Now we wanted to make a connection with our database running on RDS, right? We would say like MySQL -h, and then we need to define after -h. This is host, right? We need to define the URL of the RDS instance. So go back to this RDS, copy the endpoint, and then paste it right here. Then you have to go and define the username. So username was admin, right? Then you need to say the password. So it is going to prompt for the password after -p option. And if you want to define the port number, so then it is like capital P 3306. Now define the password for your database. So you can see like we are able to make a connection to our database, right? And if I say like show databases, so it should show me the database. We have like default databases available. We haven't created any database, so we will go and say create database, and let's say iTech, right? one database got created for us. So databases now. Okay. So iTech is available as of now. Now we have to go and create couple of tables. So we can say use iTable, and now we can say like show tables. So we will not find anything because we haven't created any table as of now. So in order to create a table, I have to go and execute the command create table, and then let's say students. Fine. A table must have at least one column. Fine. So whenever you say like create tables, then you have to go and define couple of other options also, like what all columns it have. So I will say like create table student, and then I will say let me go and check the command create table in MySQL. Yeah, so this is the command which you have to go and use. First of all, you need to define the same thing, create table, the table name, and then you need to define all this stuff, right? So let's say I want to have this name, and I wanted to say the name is going to contain characters up to 50, and then we have this courses, fine, and we can say here the course is like also going to contain var 50, or maybe let's say like 60, and I am also going to define here id, right? And I will say like id int comma, and then close all this thing. So the table got created here, and now you can see here that you can actually go and say show table. So you can see like this table is available inside this database iTech. So student is available. Now you can always check like what kind of schema it is. So describe students. You can see like it has fields, ID, name, and courses. Now if we wanted to insert some data, so insert what is the command? Insert, then into students, and then you can go and say what is it? Insert data in MySQL. Okay, so you can define something like this. You can say name in the parenthesis, name, and courses, and what was the first one? The ID. And here you can define values, and you can say like ID is 1, and the name is, let's say, Slarul, and the course is, let's say, DevOps, right? So whenever you try to give this DevOps and Slarul, so you need to make sure that these are available inside the single quote. So let's say this, and add the semicolon at the end, and hit enter. Okay, so it says it has given me one error because there is no field with the course. The field name is courses. So just verify it once again and run it. So you can see, like, the data got updated in my table, and now I can say select star from. I wanted to read the whole content from my table, so I will say select star from students, and you can see, like, this data is available. So I can again go and run the command insert, and I can say, let's say Sudhir, and here I can say like Aws DevOps, right? And the ID is 2. If I try to read the information from the database, you find this thing, right? This is how you go and create the database, the table, and insert something in the table. And if you wanted to update the database, so you can always say update students. Then again, everything will be same, I guess. Update students, ID, course, and everything is same. Now I wanted to say let's say cloud DevOps, right? So it has given me an error. It says that please check the manual for the correspondent. Okay. So you can see, like, it says, update, then table name, then set, and then column name, and then condition. So it should be something like this. Courses equal to this cloud DevOps, and yeah, it should work. But I have to go and define set here, update students, set courses is equal to cloud DevOps, but you also need to define that where you wanted to add it. So I wanted to add where the ID is 1. If the ID is 1, then only update this section, right? Where ID is equal to 1. See, it got affected. Now we can read the content. Select start from the table name students, and you can see, like, this option is just came here. It got updated successfully. So this is how you work with database, MySQL database, and you save all the data in your in your database only, and then application, with your application you define that on which port number and on which URL you wanted to make a connection. And yeah, so if you guys have any doubt from this, what we have covered so far, you can ask me.
I'm good.
Okay. What about you, Satish?
Me too.
Okay, cool. So yeah, now we talked about the we talked about the snapshot, we talked about the read replica. Read replica is one of the common thing which people will be asking you during the interview, so make sure that you try to know about the read replica more. Try to practice it at least. And yeah, now once you go to the database, inside the database, so you can always see a couple of configurations, the monitoring part, and you can always see how many, what is the CPU utilization, what is the DB connection, the free storage space, and everything else, the write IOPS, the read IOPS. And then you can always go and check the logs. So you can create the alarm also, that if the memory or CPU utilization is more than like 80% or 90%, so in that case it should send you the alarm. Okay, that this alarm you configure by using the CloudWatch service. Okay, by using a CloudWatch service, and you can see all the logs and everything, database instance restarted, created, backing up the DB instance and everything. So now we have this configuration option, so you can always check all the configuration in the configuration option, the DB instance ID, the instance class, whether the encryption is applied or not. So encryption is something which is important in some of the organization. So data which is available in your database should be in the encrypted form as the recommended format, and that once, but so data will not be, nobody will be able to read the data because the data is not available in plain text. So what we do, we apply the encryption, and to apply the encryption on any of the storage, you need to have a KMS key, right? So once you have the KMS key, then you can go and apply the encryption. So it is one of the crucial thing in any of the organization. So make sure that you have this thing enabled, and it always charge some amount for the encryption, right? If the size of the database is high, so I will make sure that you take the proper downtime before actually applying the snapshot, before you actually apply the encryption. And yeah, now we have the other options available, this whole thing. And yeah, and this is also one of the great thing, deletion protection. So it is disabled as of now. You can always enable it, and you can say that if anybody try to delete this database accidentally, so they should not allow. So that's why sometimes we enable it if the database is important to us. Now maintenance and backup, so you can see like the maintenance and backup and everything. So automatic minor version upgrade to MySQL 5.7.26. So this is what you can apply. So you can see like this is the pending maintenance. As this database is being managed by the AWS, so they will be giving you the recommendation that what is best or what is not. So you can always go and apply this thing from here. So go and check here, then say apply. It will get applied, and sometimes you need to restart. So make sure that whenever you do this kind of activity, you take the again downtime and also the approval from your manager or lead. And one last thing is the automated backup is going to retain for 7 days. So this is also important to know. Yeah, so from this, most of the things which we have covered, we have already covered. And the last thing which I wanted to cover is like these 3-4 options. So reserve instances is something, it is just like the the reserve EC2 instance, which says that you can reserve the instance for 1 year or 3 years, and which will allow you to save some cost, right? So that is what we have, this reserve instances. And we have this subnet group, parameter group. So what do we mean by subnet group? Subnet group define that in which subnet or VPC you will be launching this RDS instance. As of now, if you go to this configuration, so you will see that it is available in default. Click on this configuration, and you will see here that we should have yeah. So here you can see like subnet group is the default one. So it always defined that where you're gonna launch your instance, DB instance, right? And we also have the another option called parameter group. So parameter group allow you to change the configuration of the database. So what kind of configuration? So you can always go and say like allow suspicious UDF, and cache, the bin log, cache size. So sometimes the application team required us to change these values. Some of them are like modifiable, some of them are not modifiable. Okay, so you can change these configurations by creating a new parameter group. Always go and create a new parameter group, update all this stuff, and then update this parameter group in your database. Okay, or you can also go and create the new database with this new parameter group and then restore the whole stuff. Yeah, so this is how we go and work around the database. If you have any questions, so you can ask me. Otherwise, this is, all about the database, and try to practice this stuff. Try to, at least try to do this activity. There is not much requirement of the database, uh, but only the people required you to have knowledge of RDS, so that you can go and create the RDS for them. You can go and give the credential or the access to the users if required. So you can do all these kind of actions, right? So if you guys have any questions, so you can ask me. Otherwise, you can go and start deleting all the resources. We are getting a lot of options as of now. Take a snapshot, restore to point in time, migrate a snapshot. And one thing, if you always, if you got the requirement that you have to shift the database from one region to the another region, from Mumbai region to, let's say, London region. So in that case, you have to go and create the snapshot, then copy the snapshot from Mumbai region to the London region. And in the London region, you have to go and create the database from the snapshot, right? So in that case, the new database will be available. And the another option is to create the read replica. So I don't want to create the final snapshot. I just wanted to delete it. Yes, guys. So if you guys have any question from this, you can ask me.
No questions for me.
Okay, I will also go and delete my instance, not required. So are you guys are getting time for the practice which we are learning in the classes?
Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes we are getting, but sometimes we are not getting, because we are working from 9 to 6:30. So sometimes we are not getting, and Shruti is still working in the afternoon shift, so she's still working, so she's unable to join today.
Okay, okay. No worries. Like the recordings will be available. So try to practice this stuff. Try to ask, questions to each other, and I just try to think that how you can go and think of a scenario, how people will be using an application when it comes to the real environment. How you want your applications to be to be available. In that way, your idea of thinking will increase, and eventually that will make a difference between you and others, right? So that is how you have to go and think. Like if you are going to run this RDS or database in the real time in the production environment, so what all things you will be thinking. And AWS documentation is a good stuff to revise, and to refer. So always do that. Yeah. So now I think it will take some time to delete all these things, and it will get deleted. And tomorrow we don't have class. Tomorrow is Thursday, and then after that we have this Friday. So Thursday, Friday we have off. Then we will be having classes on Saturdays and Sunday. Okay, IST. So I think that will give you some time to practice. We have already covered a great amount of content, and so we will go and learn something related to more related to the DevOps things, right? And tell me one thing, do you guys want me to cover this S3 also?
Yeah, S3, and so he didn't cover the CloudWatch, and we also need a session on auto scaling also.
Okay, fine. So in next class we will learn about this S3. Fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, guys. So again, thank you guys for joining here, and I will see you on Saturday. Saturday IST.
Saturday. Okay. Okay. Saturday IST. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Today
thank
is
you.
Wednesday. So yeah. Thank you guys. Then see you. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr.